All right, let's talk about even and odd trig functions. Again, emphasis on the fun. So, first question for you is, how do we determine if a function is even or odd? We actually started off the school year talking about, even functions, odd functions. So hopefully we can recall that, if we have f of t, and that's equal to f of negative t, that would imply that the function is even, which also means that it's reflected over x or y axis. Very good, y axis. Likewise, we know for odd, f of negative t is equal to negative f of t. Okay, and of course that would be reflected over the origin. So when we're talking about even and odd functions, we can also talk about this in terms of trigonometry. When we start discussing actual graphs, this will be really, really useful for us. But we do have only two even trig functions. That would be cosine and secant. And then we have sine, cosecant, tangent, and cotangent are our odd functions. So these are true identities, ones that you'll want to understand and be able to use. Just knowing which ones are even and which ones are odd. That being said, we're going to use these properties here. It says, use the value of the trig function to evaluate the indicated functions. It says here that sine of negative t, we don't know what t is, but we know that it's negative. Sine of negative t is 3/8. So what's sine of t and what's cosecant of t? And then once you finish that one, let's do cosine of t equals 4/5. So therefore, what's cosine of pi minus t? And then cosine of t plus pi. Go ahead, put me on pause. Let's see what you can do. All right, so I would imagine that this first example is fairly simple. Sine of t, we're just using our identities about even and odd trig functions. So sine of positive t is negative 3/8. And knowing the relationship between sine and cosecant of t, we know that this would be negative 8/3. Not too bad. This one I could imagine that we might have had some trouble with. So cosine of t is 4/5. So let's think about this visually. All right, so let's say, cosine of t is 4/5, something positive. Let's just choose that it's in this first quadrant here. Okay, so this is t, an arrow. So if I was doing cosine of pi minus t, let's think about pi from this angle, right? So, this would represent pi. And if I want to subtract t from that, I would get, let's use a different color here. This is t, right? I just subtracted that. And, we can think about what's happening here. This is my coordinate over here. I'd have the same x coordinate. Sorry, this is not drawn to scale, but it would be its opposite. So that's why I got negative 4/5. For the second case here, cosine of t plus pi, well, okay, so now, let me use purple here. This time I'm taking t and I'm adding pi to it. So think about 180 degrees. I'm going to get something that's over here, which once again is going to have, that same x coordinate, but it's going to be on the negative side once again. So negative 4/5. So we understand trig functions, how to evaluate a function in the unit circle, also just understanding like even and odd functions, which really are just those identities that I shared with you.